Well, hey there, folks. Tip from the Stupid Gardener. This is our compost pile that is just full of greens. And how can we charge this thing up and really get this compost going? The answer, biochar. So hold on 1 second and we'll talk about that. Okay, biochar. It's a great topic, something that I use in my garden and as well as in my compost. I always burn things in my fire pit, and a few years ago I started to make biochar. And the way you make that in your fire pit, most of the time when you light a fire, you feed it from the bottom. You get that oxygen going in the bottom, and it burns from the bottom all the way up. But what I was doing, I would collect a whole bunch of brush and just pile it up in the fire pit, and you light the fire from the top, and you let it burn down. Keep burning it down. You let that burn for a while, and then you would take a hose and you would spray over the top of it and put it out, and you cut off the oxygen, and then you let it kind of dry out in it and everything, and then you would be left with pieces just like this. And that's biochar. Okay, so what I did on this one here, I was messing around on YouTube, and I came across this video of this older man, and I think he lived out in Michigan or somewhere in Wisconsin. But anyways, he had a beautiful garden, and he made biochar all the time, and he had a compost pile, and he watered it with compost tea, collected rainwater, and he had tomatoes that went up about 10 feet. So he gave a little trick that you could do. Instead of burning things in your fire pit, you can go out and buy lump charcoal like you would use in your grill. But you have to make sure it's 100% all natural, and it doesn't have any of the chemicals in it that some of these name brands have when you're cooking on a charcoal grill. So I went out and bought some. I think I paid about $10 for the bag or something like that. And so I brought it back home, and it comes in pieces about yay big. And so I just put it into a bucket, filled it about 3/4 of the way up, and I crushed it up with the shovel. Now, one thing when you are doing that and you're pouring that in there and you're crushing it up, you're gonna get a lot of dust that's gonna come up. It's like coal dust, and this is stuff that you do not want to breathe. So you want to make sure that you have a mask. And in the day and age that we live in now, everyone should have a mask because it gets real dusty, and you do not want to be breathing that in. So, but the way I use this is that all through my garden, I have biochar in there because I put it into my compost, and I just let it break down along with the greens in there and the browns and everything. And when I'm sifting off, I'm always coming across pieces of biochar, and I let it sift right down in with the soil that I'm getting from the compost, and that goes right into my garden, right into my flower beds. I put it around the plants. I even take some and I'll mix it off, and I use it from my front lawn if I have a bare spot. I'll put some biochar in there along with some screen compost, and it works great. Now the thing about what biochar, and the thing that helps it retains moisture. And if you would put this under a microscope, it's light and it's very airy. So there's all kinds of holes in there that water's going to get into, it's going to break down, and it's going to stay right in your soil. And all the microorganisms are going to get in there, and it's going to start working this and working your soil. And this is great to retain moisture in your soil. And biochar has been around for hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years. I mean, it's just been around. I know I was reading somewhere that they did a dig on an old Native American settlement, and in their garden area where they were planting, they found biochar. A lot of the tribes in South America have been using biochar for years and years and years, and it enriches the soil. So it's something great that you can use in your garden, in your compost. And the way we're going to activate this is I have already crushed it up with this shovel. I had my mask on, and I crushed it up into these pieces about that big. And I'm going to take my compost tea to activate it in this bucket here. And I want to make sure that you know, this compost tea gets right into all those little airy places there, and it sits in here for about 24-48 hours, and then I'm going to dump it right into my compost. And I'll be turning my compost over the next couple of months, and this will start breaking down and really activate that compost. So I crushed it all in this bucket here, and this is where I crush all my biochar. So I have holes in the bottom there from the shovel from hitting it too hard. So I don't want to put the water in the compost tea water into this bucket here. So I have another bucket over here that I'm going to grab, and I'll put my mask on because this is going to get kind of dusty. So. And that there is exactly what you do not want to breathe in. You don't want to get that into your lungs and everything. But like I said, everyone should have some sort of mask by now in the United States. Well, and I guess around the whole world. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this compost tea that had been sitting around for a couple of days, and I'm going to put it right in there. It's kind of a big slurry mess, but I tell you, you put this in your compost and you screen this thing off in a couple of months, and you will have some great compost soil coming out. So we're going to let that sit around. We're going to let that sit around for probably for a couple of days and just let it work. And I'll come out and stir it around. I'll add a little bit more water to it and just keep stirring around. And all that water is going to get right inside all those little holes there. And that's all that compost tea, which is enriched anyways, and it's going to charge this thing up. And then when I get it into that compost and around all the greens there, it's really going to enrich that compost and get it working and breaking down. So this is a very good tip that you could use instead of, because it's kind of time consuming when you're burning in your fire pit and trying to get this biochar, when you can go to the store and get a bag of charcoal, lump charcoal, and just make sure on the bag it says 100% natural, because you don't want all those chemicals going into your compost. You just want the 100% natural, because all this is just wood. I think this is hickory wood. So this is going to work great for our compost, and it's going to end up in our garden and all our flower beds and everything else, and it's really is going to get our compost going. And when it gets into the garden, you'll come back 4 or 5 years later and you will see little chunks of this just sitting around. I have it all through my garden, in my vegetable garden, just little chunks of this biochar. When water hits it, it just retains that moisture, and you'll have great, wonderful soil. So just a tip, and we'll probably be doing this again, and I'll show you the different places around the yard where I use this. And if you have any questions or comments, just place them down below. If you like the video, hit like. If you're not a subscriber, please do. So I'll sign off from here. Again, this is Tip from the Stupid Gardener. Everyone take care. God bless.